conference because the topics that have been chosen are either new to you or some of them are a bit vague sounding and looks like as if I'm going to be talking on spirituality and mantras and things like that instead of Jyotish. Let me make it very clear that Graha Acchadana is a new topic. It is a fantastic topic, absolutely magic when it comes to Jyotish. You are going to see some real magic with it. The next topic for the conference I've chosen is the Rajas of Venus. Now, we all know that Venus is a very Rajasic planet. It is the Rajas which creates everything on this planet, and it is the Rajas that keeps the species alive, things happening, and it's all about progeny and all about children, all about love and affection, as well as our very carnal desires. I'll see to the extent I can cover the topics out here. Finally, we have a 2-day workshop on Navamsha and Purushartha. Now look at the topic. It's Navamsha and Purushartha. So basically, I'll not be talking on the Rashi chart. I think Andrew and others are speaking on the Purushartha in the Rashi chart. So what am I going to be talking on Purushartha? Am I be talking on Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha? I think all of you know that. You already know what is Dharma. Dharma is basically duty. Artha is all about money, basically the material world. Power, position, status, money. Kama is the fulfillment of desires. And Moksha is about freedoms. That's what we understand, the extent to which we have our freedoms. But at the Purushartha level, at the Purusha, on the soul level, this has a different meaning. And there's a different way of looking at it. And a different way that Raj Yogas will function. You need to understand the connect between the Atma Karaka in the Navamsha, which is the Karakamsha, and the Lagnamsha, that is the Navamsha Lagna. And from these two, we are going to be studying the Navamsha. And we are going to be studying how yogas will function, how some yogas become defunct, and how everything works in this Navamsha chart. With that, I take you to the first topic, which is Acchadana. Acchadana is the benediction of a planet. Every planet, especially the first 6 of them, can give a benediction, a blessing, which is basically the fulfillment of its objective. For example, Venus is Karaka for marriage. But why does Venus bring about marriages? Why does Venus bring two people together? Venus is bringing people together for the sake of progeny. That is the principal reason for marriage, to propagate the animal species. Now the 7th house for Venus is its Karaka function. Karaka means doing, bringing people together. Whereas the 5th house from Venus is the Acchadana. So where should we look first for children? Which house am I going to look first for children? Normally people will say, look at the 5th house in the chart of men and also 9th house in the chart of women, because women get pregnant and the pregnancy is basically in the 9th house. So that's fine. I do not disagree with that. 5th house from Jupiter, because Jupiter is Putra Karaka, but that's the upbringing of the children. How are you bringing up the children? How are you functioning as a father or as a mother? But the 5th house from Venus actually shows your capability to propagate. And that is where we should first be looking for children, whether you can produce children or not. And when are these children going to be produced? So what happens if the 5th house from Venus, the lord of that, is connected to the 7th house from Lagna? That means, hey, the time has come for a baby to be born. And that can enforce marriage. Enforcement of marriage can happen. Look at many people in this planet. There are many people who get married merely because they need to marry as a duty to fulfill the need to propagate the species. That is called fulfillment of the Pitris. Look at the 5th house from Venus and see if there is a connection between the 5th house from Venus and the 7th house from Lagna. Well, what happens if Venus is in the 3rd house? If Venus is in the 3rd house, then it is obvious that it is going to have a strong influence on the 7th house. That means as soon as you get married, you could be having kids. What happens if the fifth lord from Venus, let us say Venus is in Aries in somebody's chart. So the fifth lord from Venus is the sun. And let us say the sun is in the seventh house. I can say for sure that, hey, this person is getting married largely because his father wants that he should marry and he should have kids. Now, does it enforce marriage for the sake of progeny? The answer, you don't have to wait till BAVA 2017. I'll give it right now. It is yes. The planet will enforce the marriage in the manner that he thinks is fittest. Now, if it's a malefic planet, you could feel a bit of a pinch, but it will be for your good because the kids have to be born. Let us take an example chart over here. In this chart, you can see Venus is in Pisces. And we found that a son was born to him in Jupiter Dasha, Mercury Antardasha. This is the standard Vimshottari Dasha. Look at the fifth house from Venus. The fifth house from Venus is Cancer with the planet Ketu in it. So normally we should expect that Ketu should be involved in a period or sub-period where the kid is born. And then we look at Ketu more carefully, we find that there is something called a Sukshma Parivartana. Sukshma Parivartana happens when planets occupy each other's Navamsha or they occupy each other's Nakshatra. Now in this particular case, it is Nakshatra because Mercury is in Ashwini Nakshatra, which is ruled by Ketu, and Ketu is in Ashlesha Nakshatra, which is ruled by Mercury. So technically, there is a Nakshatra Parivartana or an exchange of nakshatras. So the lords of Ashwini and the lords of Ashlesha are exchanging exchanging nakshatras. So instead of Ketu giving the results, we should expect results in the period of Mercury. Okay, now look at Cancer again and tell me which planets are aspecting. Jupiter has a very powerful aspect, both Graha and Rashi Drishti. Then there is the Moon's aspect of Rashi Drishti alone. He is also the Lord. Rahu and Mars are having Graha Drishtis. So among them, I find Jupiter to have the most profound and strongest influence on the fifth house. And so his son was born in Jupiter Dasha, Mercury Antardasha. Now, normally this applies to the first child, others follow. It's very interesting to understand that how the propagation of the species is happening because of Venus. Like that, we'll be seeing so many things about the other planets. Come join me in BAVA and I'll be giving you a very good idea about some special powers of these planets called Acchadana. The conference topics. We will cover all the Acchadana as usual with ample examples. You know, I don't like to teach without examples. Teaching without examples is meaningless because nobody understands anything. Somebody just wrote out a dictum and you are supposed to remember the dictum, and honestly you are not going to remember anything unless there are ample examples to work with. And some of you are in for a shock as to how simply the Rishi could say so much. There is so much that you can say only by using Acchadana. Venus is a Rajas incarnate. Now this is about Venus, the Rajas of Venus. And we examine some of these topics. I am not going to be showing you about, the extent to which somebody can have a very dirty sexuality. I'm not interested in that. Since I am not interested, I'll fall asleep. And so I avoid that topic. What I will be talking about is the Guna of Venus. How Sattva, Rajas or Tamas, or whether the Gunas is changing with time. How does it alter? Does it rise with time? Does it go down with time? What happens when there is too much of Sattva on Venus? Can we say that the Rajas gets sort of quelled? Yes, we can say that. Now, we'll also be discussing some charts related to the first menses. Now, this is a topic I will never ever get to cover otherwise. And how does the first menses play a critical role in your marriage, children, and your future life? Also, what remedies can you do? Many women know the date and approximate time when their period started. And if they have that, you can make this chart and study it. The next topic I'll be talking about is a difficult topic, a very sensitive topic. It's incest. And what are the factors that we need to look at to confirm incest? not to predict it. Please don't predict incest. The idea is to confirm. If somebody comes and says that they had some incest-related problems, so you need to see the chart to find out really, and what are you going to look at? Where are you going to see incest? That's what I'll be talking about. And now the very interesting topic. Does your spouse have a secret baby? A very interesting topic. So the secret child. How do you know which people are willing to have a secret child? Now, a secret child basically means that you are producing a child out of wedlock. Okay? We'll get into this. These are the conference topics. Then we have the Purushartha workshop. You all know Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha. So I am not going to be lecturing you on morality or on spirituality. Please, that is not the topic. What I will be talking about is a little on Navamsha as Dharmamsha. Navamsha as Dharmamsha followed by Adharma. Now, that's the interesting part. And we'll be doing a couple of criminal charts, because you need to look at a chart to know whether this person can possibly have a criminal bent of mind. Now that's important for you to know, because if he has, you should not be falling in love with the person, right? Okay. Now you've got to see both sides of the coin. That is, you cannot know Dharma without knowing Adharma. You cannot study Dharma without studying Adharma. So you got to show both sides of the coin. What is the difference between Kendra and the Kona in the Navamsha? It has a huge difference. Absolutely huge. Remember, all the Rashi chart, all houses automatically get mapped to the Kendras only. So what are Konas really in Navamsha, and how do we use them? That's what we are going to be doing as far as Dharma is concerned. We'll also study a little on the chart of Shri Krishna, the Gita, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and so many other charts. Then we come to Artha, where we will be doing charts to learn how to see major setbacks. Because financial setbacks are serious. Artha doesn't just include money, it includes power as well. So, for example, how do you see that Donald Trump was a failure in hotel business? Straightway, he is an absolute failure when it comes to hotels. But he had success in construction. After all, he had a lot of money. Where did the money come from? It came from construction. So we'll be doing a Rashi Amsha map. And this Rashi Amsha map is not the same for the 4 Purushartha. So we need to understand the difference between mapping in the Navamsha. So where do we check character in the Navamsha, for example? In the Rashi chart, where would you see character? You would of course see it in the 6th house. But in the Navamsha, you're going to be seeing it in the 2nd house. Interesting, huh? So we need to understand these things in more depth in the Navamsha. Continuing the Purushartha workshop, can we confirm celibacy from Navamsha? Somebody says, I am celibate, I want to be a perfect monk. How do you know that? How do you know that's true? How do you know, well, he's not doing something on the side? That's karma. And what else do we see? So many other things we need to see in the karma. Karma as a Purushartha is not about sexuality. It is about overcoming sexuality. It's about overcoming desires. Not just all desires. Every desire comes under karma. We all have secret desires. And how do we overcome them? That is Kama Purushartha. Finally, we land at Moksha and check a dicta on Upagraha. Now look at the name, Upagraha. Upa basically means down, like sitting down. Upasana is sitting down for worship. Upasana is about worshipping God, knowing God. And Upagraha is like the children or the lower energies of the God, of the Grahas. It is that which is available on earth. So I didn't know that Upagraha gave Upasana until I read Parashara. And later on we will see that Upagraha is so important for moksha. We will attempt to prove that Ketu is the moksha Karaka from charts of Vivekananda, Ramana Maharishi, Thakur Ramakrishna, B.V. Raman, so many charts. I will prove it to you that Ketu is Moksha Karaka. Now, what is the implication of that? Particularly in the Navamsha, it is very important, and you will see that. I plan to end with a little on Arudha, a little bit. How Arudha is critical for our Purushartha. Okay, with that I end this little brief introduction. I hope some of you can make it to BAVA 2017.